Just a little program, right?
So good afternoon to everyone. No, good afternoon back. So you guys are either in a food coma or you're still depressed over Facebook's ad that came out today, right? Okay. Anyway, so I'm really happy to be here with Kim, and Coca-Cola is an obvious leader in the mobile space, and so I thought we would start at the very beginning. And so my first question for you is, how and when did the mobile web first start at Coca-Cola, and why?
So I can't really give the exact day, but actually my boss is Tom Daly. Some people may know him. He sits on the board at the MMA, but he was actually brought in about 6 years ago from UPS and was to build out the mobile strategy within Coca-Cola globally. So I don't know that that's when the mobile web started, right? Because I don't think we're even there yet. I'm sure people are going now saying, look, they don't even have mobile optimized sites, but it's a end-to-end strategy he's working through, and when you do that across so many brands, it's been building.
Okay. So why is it important for a brand like Coca-Cola to have a mobile web strategy?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious, right? Everybody has mobile devices. It's the last place folks look before they buy a Coca-Cola. We want them to be able to reach our brand. We want to be able to reach them. We use it in many different ways. Obviously, in this case, we used it to kind of accentuate what we were doing for the Olympics, but then we also need to do it at the point of sale. We also need to use it, even for our customers and for B2B, right? So between our bottlers as well. So
yeah, so it's important. We all know that, right? But so I think it was Google, right, that came out with some numbers saying that about 30% of brands still don't have, or I think it's 30% do have a mobile web presence, and the rest don't. So
we probably make up about 30% that don't.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think brands are so slow to get to the mobile web?
I'm going to be very frank with you and just tell you because the shit is hard. Sorry.
Okay, I like that answer.
No, and people may say, no, it's not that hard to just put out a mobile website, but it's very hard. Obviously, you know that we're creating the templates for companies like us to be able to do that. And when you multiply that across however many brands we have, and you multiply that across 209 different markets, and you multiply that across 50 plus languages, it becomes extremely difficult, especially when each of those markets, when I say market, I mean country, and then within those countries, they have cities that have their own campaigns, so it becomes extremely, extremely difficult very fast.
So wait a minute. So, okay, I've been reading all these articles about responsive design being the cure-all for mobile. It's not?
Not at all.
Okay. So
not at all. And it's probably one of the most frustrating things, too, is, right, the agencies are coming, they have these great relationships with our brand managers, and they tell our brand managers that they have mobile solved because they have responsive design. And I don't agree. You really need to be able to build the experience based on where everybody's at, and you need to make sure that experience is tailored to those different platforms. So whether it be tablet, whether it be the phone, whether it be the desktop, they all kind of deserve their own experience, and really have their own what I do online with Coca-Cola will be extremely different from what I'll do online with Coca-Cola on my phone.
Okay. All right. So I head up the brand coverage at Digiday, and I talk to brands every day about sort of this mobile apps and mobile web, and I've heard sort of like this consensus that mobile web is more of an acquisition channel, so you're there to get found by people that necessarily, for Coke, obviously everybody knows what Coca-Cola is, but but mobile web is more of acquisition, while a mobile app is more for like your loyalists. So could you talk about, maybe use the Olympics site, the Olympics microsite that you guys built as an example, but sort of what components of the site are like, to acquire customers? So do you have like SMS
right, so
options?
We did kind of an end-to-end strategy, but we had to focus on what we call brilliant basics, and that was the SMS mobile web and app. but how do you get them all to work together? And then also, how do you make sure they're social, et cetera? So we did have SMS. We actually launched SMS in 9 markets. Doesn't sound very big, but that ended up being probably about 80% of the world's population, because we had China, we had India, we had Russia, South Africa. And I can tell you that the SMS itself was hard as well. I think as anybody knows, SMS is very difficult when you're doing it on a global scale. But as far as the mobile website, so we, you saw some of what we did, but we did a documentary as well following Mark Ronson around the world. We took behind the scenes footage of that and even snippets of that, and we made sure that we had that, you could see that on the mobile web. So we had the mobile video, we had webisodes, we had YouTube, we had ringtones. You could create your own ringtone. I think a perfect example of tailoring to the experience. So for you could create a beat on the app, right? So very interactive, very play with it. But then for feature phones and for those markets that don't have the smartphones, you could answer a few questions and you got a ringtone, right? So it was making sure that it was tailored to what device they were on and which ones they were doing. Did I answer your question?
Kind of. So on the website itself, were there parts of the website that asked consumers to sign up to an SMS database?
Yes, so the SMS was
okay,
integrated into it in the markets that took it, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of it. We have to, for those who don't know, it's kind of different than just a U.S. company, right? So I sit in the global group. We actually create these big ideas, especially around the Olympics. We take them and then we have to sell them into the markets. So we have to actually go to each market and say, hey, here's the package, here's what it is, here's how you'll be able to localize it, etc. When you do that across stuff that they already are aware of, like TV, it's fairly easy. But once you bring in all of these different new assets, it becomes very hard. And the SMS was one of those. So I'm going to help everybody here with the SMS. The SMS, so we went and we had a very cool spreadsheet that had all kinds of ideas of here's the different types of messaging you can give your consumers, what have you. Some markets did fantastic with that. Some markets did not do fantastic at all. They actually took my example and put it into their campaign and pushed it out. And that was it was about a table tennis player in London, and they were pushing it out to the U.S. Hispanic market. Doesn't make sense, right? So not relevant at all. But those are learnings that we get to carry into the next one. And then we get to carry, so those are the bad learnings. The good learnings are that Canada, we recommended only 2 messages a week they push out because we didn't want to overwhelm people and people just say, not going to take it from Coca Cola. They went against that and they pushed out 5 messages a week. However, they created their messaging and made it so relevant to their market. They had a 55% engagement rate on their SMS. So really, really cool stuff.
So would you say that you're getting that Coca-Cola is sort of gearing up to get to the point where mobile is sort of a part of everything that you guys do?
Definitely. It's definitely going to be part of everything we do. I think we're still at a transition phase right now and educating folks internally, not really on how great mobile is. I think everybody's tired of hearing that, right? I even sat in conferences all this week, and every freaking one of them started with mobile's the next is the biggest thing. It's like, we wouldn't be here if that was, you know what I mean?
Yeah. This is the year of mobile.
Yeah, if one more person says that, I mean, I'm sitting there saying, no, it's not, right? Because your agencies are not, it's not included in their toolkits. I want to get it to a point, my goal is to get it to a point where every single brief that comes back from an agency includes SMS, includes mobile web, includes, and I don't just mean that it says we're going to do SMS, it includes the actual messaging, right? So it includes those things that need to be integrated into it. So it's an end-to-end campaign. It's not just coming to the stage saying we're going to do mobile because you're going to do SMS, but nobody's telling them what messaging to push out.
Okay. Can you talk about some of the lessons learned? What works on the mobile web? What doesn't work? What should marketers absolutely stay away from?
We don't have all day. Exactly. Probably some of the biggest ones or biggest gotchas that we ran into was the simplest things. And that would be the architecture, the underlying architectural. So the URL strategy became quite difficult. The redirect strategies became quite difficult. So you would think, if they're on this device, they get redirected to the mobile site. But then we didn't want them redirected to the mobile site when they were on the tablets. It became very, and then when you add in the redirect, we have one global site. Where does that one redirect to based on where you're coming from? And then you can't tell where people are really coming from. And then you add in the different languages to that, you add in the different country codes to that, and it becomes very messy very quickly. So that was one, just the basics of URL strategy. The videos, same thing. So video you think would be very easy as well. We had tons of video, but once you got to the point of pushing that video out, again, it came down to naming conventions. Obviously with the American Disabilities Act, you have to have your content, your videos subtitled. But then to subtitle and translate and do all of that when you don't really have the assets yet because they were still filming, and getting it to the right place at the right time became very difficult as well. The SMS strategy, so the way Coca Cola thinks is the money is given basically on campaigns. So it's this campaign or this brief, the next one campaign brief. It's hard to get them to the brand managers to understand an always-on strategy. So when I say that, I mean, for instance, the SMS, we have 250,000 registered users for the SMS and no follow-up strategy as far as keeping in touch with them, right? So, and that's by market. So there's only so much you can do at global. So that's one of the biggest things is making sure that SMS strategy is there. So when I say you agency, you come back to me with SMS included in the overall campaign or brief that you come back with, it has to kind of match in with that always on strategy, right? So how do you take folks from this campaign to the next campaign to the next campaign? How do I take all those people and all those folks that we got engaged for the Olympics, how do I carry them into Holiday and Art to Comb? Right, that's the learnings that we're working through right now because we didn't think of that. I shouldn't say we didn't, I did, but it's so much, and that's why as somebody on a panel yesterday said, why is it so hard for brands to understand? I was getting frustrated. I was getting visibly upset. I'm like, because this shit is hard.
Okay. So what's your advice to agencies? How can they better cater to brands looking to get into mobile? I mean, I'm sure if you're having these concerns, then other brands feel the same way. So what's your advice?
So one, I think the agencies need to talk to each other. For the London Olympics, we had 14 agencies, and we had to really force them to talk to each other and understand. So when you have an agency that specializes in the SMS and underworkings of that, they need to talk to the agency that has all the creative. They need to then talk to the person that's doing all the video, and then they have to talk to Netbiscuits, who's putting it on to the mobile website and what have you. I think they need to begin thinking through all the way to the small screen. So when we filmed the documentary, it wasn't in our original agreement with them for the documentary to actually that we needed the pieces in, I need 2-minute clips. I don't need a 30-minute video. So for them to understand and think in that way, how do you get these assets, the content, ready for something like that? There's this line that's being blurred right now between brands and being, with all the branded content. So I think we're adjusting to how to be a content company. And I'm not saying Coca-Cola is going to be a complete content company, but we are going to be serving up a lot of content. How do we manage that?
Right. Yeah, so content is definitely on everyone's minds these days. So you had a video on the site, so branded content. Was it just the same thing that you had online? Did you have a mobile-specific version?
Yeah, so in the end, I had a mobile agency, Movement London, who has done a fantastic job. If anybody's looking to work with them, I would give them kudos any day. They took the video, the documentary, and they actually broke it up for us to get it into small snippets. We also had behind-the-scenes footage. We had behind-the-scenes photos. I think it helped to actually be part of the process. So I was in Singapore when we were filming the documentary of the Archer. So that kind of helped think through on how we might be able to use some of that content and share it with consumers or how consumers might want to see it. Okay. you know, because you went and you saw that this little shy archer, you know, had little schoolgirls giggling behind him. So, I mean, it was good to see that because then you kind of know what kind of content to push out. So.
Right. So, should it be, what about in terms of length for mobile web? How long should?
We chose 2 minutes. I tried to look online to see if there was any official video length that was working and didn't find it in my quick one Google search and wasn't going to go chase down a company to tell me, so we just chose 2 minutes.
Okay. So how do you envision the mobile web 5 years from now? What will it look like?
I think it's going to, one, be faster. Two, I think it's just going to be purely integrated to what we do. You know, you're going to see all the brands are going to start coming on there. So that's going to bring a level of quality, I think, that's not there right now on the mobile web. Not saying that we're the ones that pay for all of that to happen, but it does kind of just raise the bar a bit that there's things to look through. We're going to be able to obviously pay for our Coca Colas. We are working through all of that.
So you would like people to buy Coca Cola through mobile web?
Yeah, they could mobile web through, you know, tap and pay through. I mean, there's so many channels, it's ridiculous. I think we're piloting in many of those channels, and it's gonna be interesting to see who comes out the clear winner, or if there ever will be a clear winner. It may just be that we now have digital money, right? And it's not a matter of credit card companies or banks or what have you.
I'm actually really interested in knowing, you know, within the organization, is there a mobile team? Is it just the digital team that does mobile? How many people on this mobile team? How does it work?
So I personally sit we are part of a mobile team. There's 3 of us, but we sit in the global group. Our goal right now is we basically set the strategies for the global, and kind of put out what we call platforms. So we have a mobile web platform, which is right now is with Netbiscuits. And I don't mean the technical platform itself, it's more of a point of view or a strategy. So we can go into a market saying, here's our mobile web, here are your options for this. We are looking at how to segment the different markets and basically go in and say, here are the brilliant basics that you must have, right? If you're an emerging market for mobile web, you only need this. If you are an advanced market for mobile web, you need this, and you have, you know, product locator, you can, you know, tap to pay, what have you, you have all these other options. So giving the markets those tools is kind of what we do from the middle. As far as with the digital team, so right now we sit in different groups, and unfortunately it created a lot of problems. Because the content, content excellence, they're called content excellence, but really they do the big ideas, the creative. You know, they have the big budgets because they go do the TVCs and what have you, so they have the big budgets. Us in global, we do not have a budget as far as for campaigns and that, so we have to go under others' budgets. So when we're fighting for, you know, more money because we need to make sure and subtitle our videos, we would have to pull it from them. So they would hide the money. And so it was a constant fight all the time. Or if we were trying to get funds for anything for the SMS, I had to literally fight tooth and nail to get the money for the SMS. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know. Does anybody have any questions, by the way? You guys are such a tough crowd. Okay.
Come on. Anything?
Please? Yes. Thank you.
I saw the stuff that y'all do with Google with the Buy a World of Coke thing. Do you have any idea about any of that or how that may have translated? I just saw a little bit of it. I never really saw how it kind of produced.
So we do a lot with Google specifically. Are you talking about Project Rebrief or?
Yes.
Yeah, so those are kind of little pilots. So we're working through, I'm not going to say that specifically traveled, but what Coke has is what we call hits of happiness. And it started out just as you would walk by a Coke machine and a free Coke would come out. And each market has kind of taken it on their own, and it's all about togetherness. So one, I think people have seen the hug machine. There's one that's a big, tall machine. You have to stand on top of people to get the free Coke at the top. So it's kind of just fun things, but it's not stuff that really is meant to scale as one big thing. So those are kind of, that was under the Hits of Happiness program. So it's just kind of one thing that we did. We thought was pretty cool. We wanted to work with, we work really, really closely with Google. We work really closely with Facebook. So it just came out of that.
Any other questions?
How are you guys measuring your mobile activities with your sell-through? And I'm assuming, I know that there are probably lots of levels, but just what somebody asked, are you planning, or you asked, you're planning to sell Coke through the mobile device. How are you actually, though, measuring any type of branding work you're doing in all these mobile environments to sales?
I think we're still defining that. I think for the Olympics, we're working on a very big case study for it because it's the first time we're actually doing what we refer to internally as liquid and linked. So it's basically saying the content is just flows throughout. We have these assets, we put them out there, and then we kind of let them spread. Measuring that is harder than what I said before. Right now, but the analytics we got for the Olympics is really going to kind of set the stage for that. And I can't go into the numbers yet because we're still finalizing everything. But I think they're showing kind of the benchmark for the company and kind of what to expect. And I think once the numbers showed also to our own brand managers, to our own digital team, that they'll see that mobile is worth the investment.
I have another question. Do you feel like top executives, C-suite executives, do they get mobile?
At Coca Cola, yes.
Okay.
Coca Cola, most definitely. From Joe Tripodi to Wendy, I was with Wendy Clark this morning, and definitely they get mobile in our company. I think Muhtar is a little bit harder. God, he's going to see a video of this somewhere, and I'm going to get in trouble. No, actually, we hosted we have a VIP hospitality suite in London, and we gave our S3 devices to our VIPs, loaded with content, and it was fantastic to get the response from all these VIPs because they are the executives. I mean, it's the bottler in Japan, it's the bottler, very high-level executives, and yeah, they all get it and they're ready for it. And I think they're actually frustrated, right? Because we don't have this stuff figured out yet. And when I say figured out, it's not just easy to go and make it happen.
How much, I know this is probably a question that you're not going to be able to answer, but I have to ask, I'm a reporter. So how much of your overall digital budget would you say is allocated to mobile?
I don't know the overall digital budget. And it's hard to say, and that was kind of one of my pressing. No, it's fair. I think it's a good question. It was kind of one of the pressing items for myself throughout the week as well, as everybody kept saying the 10% is mobile budget, what have you. I really think we're going to be successful in mobile when we stop calling it mobile, right? Because that means it's just a campaign, it's just a creative campaign, and that's what it is. If we keep calling it mobile and making it this separate hard thing, and you're waiting for budgets to get to that little specific thing, it shouldn't be a line item. It's just, this is it. So I think why looking for a 3%, whatever. I can tell you that the mobile portion of the budget, because I fought and to get partial of my own, and I probably got about a quarter of what the desktop folks got.
Okay. That's actually pretty good, I would say.
Well, it's
right?
London Olympics. It's
okay.
not, but that's one big program. That's not what it is for every campaign.
Okay.
I would say I should have got the same amount. Exactly.
Is SEO part of your strategy or mobile strategy?
Most definitely. So actually, we sit on the same team. So on Tom Daly's team, I didn't go through it, but we have, we have 5 people. 2 of them are 100% dedicated to SEO. One of them is based in Japan. And then we have myself, who works more on the platforms and with the brands, and then another guy who does the same thing. And then we have one who focuses more on high-level initiatives.
What keeps you up at night?
My kids.
Well, I meant from a mobile perspective.
What keeps me up at night? I get really frustrated that people just don't get it. And I get frustrated with dead ends. And when I say that, extremely frustrated at things like the SMS campaign where we got all of these registered users that people were highly engaged, and then nobody has budget to follow up with them. That's what I get frustrated. It's the simple basics that I think should be so common sense to people, and I guess it's not. But I've been told I got to stop hitting people with a hammer, so I'm trying to figure out how to say it nicely.
I have that same problem.
Hi, Kim. My name's Kim also. I'm with Diageo. We're a alcohol bev CPG. So I can completely relate with everything you're saying. And I was just wondering how many hours you have this afternoon to meet with me.
I got to go to one meeting at 3:30, but this evening we can have a drink.
My question for you is, how much time does your team spend between, strategizing for the future and where mobile is going versus actual implementation of your current programs?
So my team specifically works. My time it was 100% on the Olympics for the past year. So that and then the others though were working on the strategies and the platforms, and really we're considered the SMEs within Coca Cola. So every little thing that gets called up, where they pull us into the meetings and we kind of advise and go. So we don't really spend a lot of time on implementing per se. So it's kind of almost all strategy. I did, however, for the Olympics, just because I was so worried about making sure everybody got every piece. I was on every single phone call to the markets, walking them through the mobile assets, making sure they completely understood how they could localize it, where they could localize it, how they can integrate it into their local campaigns, because they take this big campaign, but they still have their own campaigns they're working on, or kind of own spin on what they're doing in their market. So the way the U.S. implemented the Olympics was very, very different than the way India implemented the Olympics. They were focused much more on cricket, et cetera, which isn't even an Olympic sport. They want it to be. They had a whole campaign on making it one. So I would say I spent a lot of time on the implementation from that aspect, but really we're more at the strategy end.
How far in advance do you guys start planning? Just out of curiosity.
We're already planning Rio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's 2 Olympics ahead.
Yeah, no, I know.
Can you talk about whether it's on a global or a U.S. level, what have you, how people interacted with all the different channels? Obviously, you have SMS going on, you have apps, mobile web, all the stuff during the Olympics. How did people respond to it? What were they most prone to doing? Was there anything surprising about what they were doing?
I think what was surprising was how much time they were spending with the app. So the app, actually, we saw that they were spending quite a bit of time playing with it. I didn't think they would spend that as much as they did. We're looking at a way to make that a legacy. How do we build that into our overall music platform? The SMS was extremely surprising. So the 55% engagement rate, I cannot wait to get that number in our after-action review. Because then it's something that is so simple, and it's just a matter of messaging to users, and you can stay engaged. And then you can begin to pull in a little bit more, and that's where you kind of work the CRM. But I think you really have to get those basics in there. Coca-Cola works by what's called a 70-20-10 rule. I don't know if anybody's familiar. Is it the same at other companies? It wasn't at AT&T. 70-20-10 is basically 70% is stuff that we know works. So it's the basics. We know this works, this is what we do. 20% is really to kind of make that 70% work harder. And then the 10% is really the cool new stuff and where we try new things and add new things. It does not mean that's where the budget's aligned to, right? So for instance, SMS, so it aligned to where SMS was the 70, mobile web was the 20, and then app was the 10 in this program. At the end of the day, when I look at it now, I think that actually ended up being reversed. So the app ended up being probably the 20, mobile web was the 70, and then the SMS was the 10, which I don't, the SMS really, now that we have that, that's why I'm excited to put the 55% engagement number up on that, because to show that if they invested just a little bit more as far as, and I don't mean invest money, invest their time in building out the SMS plan, look at what they can get in return for that.
Engagement. Can you define engagement? What you mean by engagement?
So they did a little bit, so it was making it locally relevant. So it was about, a skateboarder, I think, in Canada. I don't know the exact messaging, and I probably should, because we're looking at it now to see so we can share it with the other markets. But it was, quick fire Q&A, true or false. The things that everybody does while they're standing in the grocery line, right? You're answering the little questions and the thing. Oh yes, I did A, B, or C. You know what I mean? It's what teens like to do. It's just kind of the.
And this is just within the app, correct? Or is it just overall with SMS? And
with SMS. This was the SMS.
Oh, this was engagement. The SMS. I'm sorry. Okay.
And so were you asking about engagement with the app?
The 55% engagement, I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, the 55% engagement was with the SMS.
Frankly, I hate that word. Engagement is like my least favorite word. How does that mean? So, yeah, does anybody have any more questions, or are we out of time? Because I have no clue. I think it's. I feel. 2 more minutes if you want to. Oh yeah, I can keep going. Okay, so what is your advice to brands? To that 70% that still are not on the mobile web? How do they start? What are the first steps? Do they start with the mobile web? How do you know if you have to start with the mobile web?
Yeah, I mean, I think all sites should be mobile enabled. We're working on getting all sites mobile enabled. I think you heard the strategy of kind of the brilliant basics, making sure those are there. For me to recommend that all brands do it, I mean, it really is. Do they need it? Do they want it? I mean, I think we're caught up right now where everybody's saying mobile. You have to have everything mobile, and again, it goes back to. You just told me I have to have a QR code. You just told me I have to have SMS. You just told me I have to have video. You know how much crap you just put into one campaign? I mean, it's how do you get all of that into one campaign and package it to where it all makes sense? But we have to do it and keep it flowing throughout. And then what do you do after the campaign is over? And I say that with mobile web as well. You're going to start having all these dead sites out there. So how do you keep it live and relevant and really keep in the always-on strategy? Someone asked about SEO, so even to that point, SEO is important. So we had to make sure that we kept this URL with evergreen content, right? So now that we will be able to be, the SEO will now be the next Olympics will be the first to pop up because we're keeping that content on. So it does stay relevant with the search.
Yeah, well, I was actually at an event yesterday, and the former CMO of Procter & Gamble was saying that as marketers, we're too caught up with tactics, that it's about the strategy, and then you figure out what tactics to use. So I think that pretty much is kind of like what you're saying, right?
Right.
Figure out what you
but I don't want
to
to discourage anybody from you need to get out there and start testing and putting your feet in the water, and otherwise you just won't learn, right? So you make the mistakes because you're not going to be able to learn anything or figure out what's really going to be right for your company. I think putting being on those calls with the markets showed me a lot. How they take in information, how they see the information, how they feel they need to relate it to their market, that kind of stuff. It was almost my own little focus group. Even though it was at 3 a.m. on a call with India. I mean, it was being able to understand.
That's what keeps you up at night. You didn't say that.
But it's being able to kind of understand how to pull it all together.
Okay. I think we have time for one last question, if anybody has one. Yes?
That's 7 years. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I have.
So, Kim, I just want to say I love your energy, by the way. All right, real New York style. So, quick question for you on feeling about mobile tags. So, Google has implemented now on some devices mobile tags that'll tag the site saying it's mobile or not. Do you feel that strategy will help the mobile web with consumers bypassing sites that Google's saying is not mobile?
I mean, it's not good for us, obviously, if we don't have mobile-enabled sites. But what gives Google the right? I guess they do have the right to do it. But I mean, is that really what the consumers want, right? So is Google looking at what consumers want, or are they trying to serve up and tell consumers what they need? I may need to hit my son's website, right? And maybe I don't remember the URL, and I probably don't, but, and I Google it. Are they not going to show me that site because it's not mobile enabled? Yet I need to get to the information. So does that make sense? I don't think.
I think they're trying to encourage
Tickets.
one.
I worked with him a lot when I first came on board.
Oh, just saying that there's tag. I thought you said it wasn't going to show it. Okay.
Service. At the time it was called Urge and various things. So I worked with him on that. Okay.
Yeah, if you have the option there, I mean, why not? That's helpful. I mean,
Yeah.
Are you with Google?
Great.
Just one.
Definitely. I'm guessing you're not coming to
I think we're
our
out of
customer
time, right?
conference next
So,
week.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much,
Definitely
Kim.
joining us.